Hey, what's up, boys and girls? Brad the Guitarologist here. It's a very snowy day outside. I usually hate these kinds of videos, these talking head sort of videos. I think they're, on the whole, I believe they're lazy. I don't know. It doesn't take many specialized skills to put your stupid face on a video and talk for a few minutes, does it? That's why I've always kind of hated these kinds of videos, especially when you're talking about philosophical things. It's like, well, anybody could do that. Let's see somebody track down, a bias issue at a Mesa Boogie. Now we're talking. Let's see somebody pull an old AMC Gremlin out of the swamp and completely restore it. You know what I mean? That's the kind of video I usually watch. I don't watch these talking head stupid videos. But I did see a video a little earlier. This guy was talking about how all of these hobbies are being ruined by like TikTokers and social media people, YouTubers, what have you. I thought, well, he's kind of talking about me in a way, because all these people were showing off their hauls, for various hobbies that they have, whether it's the vinyl community or whether it's he focused a lot on this one community, people who do stationery, which I'm actually kind of into that also. I do fountain pen restorations every now and then. I've got several fountain pens. In fact, you can see several fountain pens that I've had. I've showed a lot of these restorations on videos and stuff in the past of restoring fountain pens, and I enjoy doing that and restoring fountain pens. But I don't go to like Target and raid the stationery aisle. I don't catch a flight to Japan, spending a whole bunch of money, emptying out my bank account, getting some kind of really high quality Japanese paper. I'm not that deep into this stuff. But even on the guitar side, I'm really not that deep into this stuff. And in a couple of my last videos, and here lately, just in general, I've been talking about how I'm more and more disillusioned with the American brands, the big guitar brands. Gibson, Fender, namely, and it's not just them, it's other brands too, but they're the biggest offenders, really. They are the biggest offenders in sparking gas in people, gear acquisition syndrome. This need that guitarists feel to add one more guitar to the stable, which is in a lot of ways unhealthy. And this is a discussion that needs to be had. It's like monkey see, monkey do. You see something, you don't necessarily need it, but you buy it anyway. And if you have the money for such things, that's fine. But if you're putting your family in a situation where your kids are going to have to go without this month or something, that's not fine. I kind of wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to ask the basic question: what is your purpose in this hobby, in this community, if you will? Which I maintain there really isn't much of a community amongst guitarists, because we tend to be all over the place. We sort of run the gamut, philosophically, politically. It's not like a monolithic community. You got the amp people who like to watch my amp repair videos. You got the guitar repair people who like the guitar repair videos. You have the people who like to watch me demo a newer product, like the Fesleys and stuff I've been demoing lately. And you might even have a couple of people, you're probably very rare, who like watching me drum, which those videos don't tend to do very well, but I still love drumming, and I still consider myself a budding drummer. I'm not great, but I try, put it that way. I've tried a lot of different things on this channel. I've tried a lot of different things, different hobbies and stuff throughout my time on this earth. The electronic stuff is something that I just caught on to and started doing. It's not something I went to school for. A lot of you guys have asked me, where'd you go to school for electronics, Brad? Well, I didn't. I didn't go to school. I went to the school of find the answer online if you can't find the answer in real life or in a book. The hobby thing, this need to spend more and more money. This is not a philosophy I've ever promoted on this channel, that you have to spend more money to have a good time doing this hobby, because it's been the opposite. In fact, while I'll show really nice things on my channel, usually I'm showing them in a light of, hey, look what I acquired for not a lot of money. Hey, look at what kind of cool deal I got, on this thing. I found this in a dumpster. Somebody threw this away, like this Gibson Les Paul over here, that was restored for me by Scar My Guitar. I made a video about that, several videos about that. That was a big deal. Hey, you found a Les Paul in a dumpster. How cool is that? And I've always been trying to save you money to teach you how to repair your own stuff, repair your own amps. So it's been about low cost, not how much. How many thousands can I spend on the highest end Gibson Les Paul? It's been the exact opposite. And, you know, all of the cheapo guitars and stuff that I show, like the Fesleys and whatnot, you know, I'm showing stuff that I'm really impressed by. And I truly am impressed by some of the stuff that's coming out of China. It's gotten incredible, and it's an incredible value, a lot of that stuff. And it's like, holy shit, I want to show my audience this, and I want you guys to know that this has got the stamp of approval. If there is such a thing as a stamp of approval from me, this stuff has got it. And if it didn't have it, I'd be a lot more lukewarm about it. I'd be like, yeah, you know, this might be for some people, but for other people, maybe it's not so much. You should look elsewhere. You know what I mean? I feel like I give you enough subtext where it's like, I'm not pissing off the company who sent me the thing and wants me to review their product. I'm not just trying to piss them off and tell people their product is completely useless, because that's almost never the case. It's never the case that a product is completely useless. There's no use case for it, and nobody would ever want it. You know, who might have say that? Somebody might want this thing. They might want it for a specific purpose, and it's my job as a reviewer to say, okay, well, is it good for this? Yes or no? No. Is it good for this? Yes or no? No. Or maybe. Is it good for this? Yes. Yeah, it's good for that. It's maybe not good for these other things, but it's good for that. And for the money, yeah, it might be all right for that for some people. It's not for me. I wouldn't use it because I don't do that thing, you know. And so this is the way I like to review things. I like to tell the truth about it, and I like to be circumspect. Well, are there other people who might want this thing? Sure. And, you know, what use case might they want it for? You know, I mean, and it's like all of the, you know, you see all the cheap guitars that I have back here. I mean, that's an American Tilly. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about, you know, all these cheaper guitars, these old Japanese things that, you know, I've got several that are in project states and stuff, you know, all over the place in here right now. And I've had and done many guitars like this where I've taken something that was completely forgotten, left for dead, nobody wants anymore. I mean, it takes a special person to want to put the love into that, to get that up and going again. And not everybody's going to do that. But I'm the guy who wants to do that. You know, I'm the guy who wants to take something that was either given away or sold for very cheap, and I want to put the love into it to make it play correctly, play right. Make it something that inspires you to want to play. You know, here is an example of an amplifier I bought on Marketplace not too long ago. This is a Guild Thunder Bass Quantum. Has some really weird output tubes and stuff. It's just a weirdo amp. Got it for $200. It's an all-tube amplifier, vintage from the late 60s. I mean, it's a, you know, it could make a good, cool, not only make a cool video where hopefully, you know, somebody would watch, learn something maybe, and at the same time, I'll make a little bit of revenue from YouTube ads or whatever to keep food on my table, right? That's my ethos. Find something cheap, put some love into it, put it back into service, maybe find a new home for it eventually where somebody else can love it as much as, you know, the love I put into it. And the people who watch me do that can get something out of it as well, right? And so it's a win-win-win all around. And that's been my ethos. And that's the same ethos that I have when I'm reviewing those Chinese guitars and telling you guys, hey man, for the money, if you're in the market for something like this, for the money, this is 100% a buy, right? So it's not against my ethos. It's not. I've never said, "Oh, you can only buy American shit." I've how many Japanese guitars have I shown in the past on my channel? You know, but I get all these people like questioning, "Oh, you've changed, Brad," or you know, what you're pushing Chinese, communist Chinese, whatever. You know, you've got this idea like I'm suddenly becoming communist or something. You're so stupid. It's so dumb. And you're typing it out on a computer or an iPhone that was made in China. And that's the ultimate irony. Virtually everything you're going to buy that's electronics oriented in the modern world has components that were made in Taiwan, China, Japan, Indonesia, you know, all these places in the Far East. And, you know, there's a level of propaganda in that prejudice against anything from that area rather. While I get a certain level of prejudice against products from certain places or whatever, you're like, oh, it can't be good if it comes from there, or oh, it can't be good if if it's that brand, you know. And I've been guilty of that too. So, but sometimes brands and stuff can surprise you. Like you'll get, and that's what makes it cool. It's like, oh, you know what? This blows my prejudice apart. Like I thought that too, that this was all junk, but boy, was I wrong. Look at this thing. You know what I mean? And I would have thought that some of that stuff would have been obvious, you know, when I'm showing you, hey man, look at this roasted neck, look at the quality of the maple, look at the cut on the back of the heel, look at this thing. I mean, look at the finish on it. It's flawless, you know. And when I'm showing you, hey man, I'm not doing anything to this, and it's right out of the box, and the freaking frets are flawless, you know, I take those things as read that it's just obvious. It's obvious. It should be obvious to anybody who knows what the fuck they're looking at, right? But for some of you fools, it doesn't seem to be so obvious. And I've gotten a lot of comments, just disparaging comments, hateful comments. And I think a lot of it is just the feathers that I've ruffled in the past, you know, with this or that YouTuber audience, like whether it's Beato or Six Strings TV or some of these other people who came from other audiences. And now they're just going to hate everything I do regardless, you know, of what it is. But there's been a few who were recognizable by me as old fans of my channel who were like, I don't know what's happened to you. You know, you're doing this now. Well, like I said, this is not a change in my ethos whatsoever. I've always been about doing things on the cheap. I've never come on here and said and told you guys you need to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to guitar, or otherwise you're not a good guitarist. You know what I mean? I've never told you have to buy the latest car amplifier, 2-Rock, or Dumble clone, or whatever it is, or vintage thing. I've never been a snob about any of this stuff particularly. You know, the only area on guitar stuff where I kind of am a snob, and I'm admitted, is on acoustic guitars. You know, I'm a bit of an acoustic guitar snob. I like the sound of a wonderful acoustic, and it's a disease, almost a sickness. You know, once you hear what a great acoustic is, and you play it against, like, you know, some of the imports or some of the cheaper ones that are available, you know, anything, just run-of-the-mill acoustics, it's night and day, and it's you know, that's why, hence the sickness. It's like once you see that, once you taste a really fine wine, you know, going back, it's like kind of difficult, right? But as far as the fine wine thing, with electrics, I've never been bitten by that bug quite so much, because I can hear good sounding electrics at all price levels at this point. You know, it's particularly now because, like I said, the Chinese have gotten so good, and other Asian countries have frankly gotten so good at making great pickups. You know, that's the bottom line, making great pickups and making decent guitars to hold those great pickups. And it's just like, okay. And even if it's not a great pickup, they're making a lot of pickups that are very passable and could be mistaken very easily if you close your eyes for that, you know, for a 59 Les Paul or something. And it's like, holy shit, that sounds every bit as good. And I'm not even going to lie. You know, I'm not trying to say something here. It's just like, holy crap, this thing sounds amazing. And it's because of just those improvements, you know, and it doesn't take any kind of special genius or special talent, I don't think personally, to make a good sounding pickup. It's just, you know, it can be done by virtually anybody at all skill levels if you put in enough time, I think, and make enough of them. Eventually you're going to stumble on the magic formula, and then just repeat the formula, right? But that brings me back to what I was saying. You know, what is your purpose in this hobby? Are you trying to please yourself? And if so, you know, I guess more power to you, however you go about doing it, whether that's making the music or acquiring a new piece of gear and falling in love with it and playing it and then falling out of love with it and passing it on to somebody else or whatever, and getting that new piece of, then discovering something new in that way. Or like I said, writing songs, the artistic side of the hobby. You know, I mean, that's really where I think a lot of this is just unexplored territory. You know, there aren't enough people actually writing good songs anymore, and myself included. You know, there was a time in my life when I wrote a lot of songs, and that was what I considered to be my talent. And that was the skill set I wanted to hone, and the craft I wanted to personally hone was, writing the lyrics and writing the chord changes and all that stuff, and doing the arrangements and doing the recordings. And I've got, albums and albums worth of stuff, like from, 20 years ago plus, where I did that. And I honed that part of my skill set and my craft. But then, life leads you in other directions, pulls you other ways, and things happen. And before you know it, years have stretched into decades, and here you are. You're approaching 50, and you've got a couple of kids, and you got a wife, and you got properties, and you got lawns to mow, and YouTube channels to upkeep. So maybe life gets in the way of developing some of those skills, and that's fine. There's no law that says I had to be the best songwriter in the world, and I had to find the ultimate Mount Everest of songwriting and climb that mountain or something. That wasn't what I was in it for. It's not a competition. I'm not trying to be the best guitar player either. I'm not trying to show that I can play circles around anybody and everybody, and a lot of people accuse me. It's like, are you showing us the gear, or are you showing off, your playing? Because I'll oftentimes just start noodling on guitar when I'm demonstrating something, and I'll just start sort of rambling, and before I know it, I will have been playing for 30 to 45 minutes a lot of times. And then I have to kind of go through and in the editing process and whittle all of that 45-minute clip down, like to maybe 5 or 10 minutes. If I'm lucky, I could get it down to that. It's like, man, that's a great moment, but that turned out cool too. But oh man, that was great too. I can't cut that part out because I actually did something cool right there. And that's another thing too. I've had to become a better editor, better filmmaker. I've had to buy a lot of camera equipment, lighting. There's just so many sides. Once you get into a hobby, you realize, oh, now I need to buy these other accoutrements to sustain the hobby or to heighten it to a different level, because now I'm making YouTube videos. I have to get the lighting right, and I have to get the audio right. And so I need all these microphones, and, then I started collecting microphones and repairing microphones, and you get into all of this kind of stuff. And, and then I start collecting, and people send me stuff with signatures, and then I go to Goodwill's and I find signatures. There's a Van Cliburn signature I found at a Goodwill. You acquire more and more and more, and even right now, I'm trying to learn to be a better violin/viola player. I've got the bass there. I have to do some work on before I can start learning and playing it better. So I'm constantly trying to up my skill set. But for me, that's what my goals are. It's not specific. I don't want to be the best guitar player in the world. Like I said, it's not a fucking competition for me. I don't care about that. I just want to please myself, and the way I do that is by at least thinking that I'm improving. It doesn't have to be a huge leaps and bounds improvement in my playing, but I don't want to degrade. I don't want to go backwards. When I pick up a guitar, I want to be able to commune with the guitar and with the spirits of the universe and with God. I want to talk to God as a form of prayer when I play. That's usually what I end up doing. That's the way I would describe it. It's a form of prayer, is what it is. Making music. So everything else is ancillary to that. It's secondary to that, really, at the end of the day. But my passion, me personally, my passion is I like to find things on the cheap, and I don't care where it came from. I don't care if it came from the U.S. I don't care if it came from Asia, and then make them into something else. Make it better through love and improvement, right? Through repair or modification of some kind, and that sort of thing. And that's kind of how I built this channel, and that's how I built, the following that I've built here is through doing that and maintaining that sort of ethos. What I'm trying to get at here is, if you feel like you don't have a guiding principle in your pursuit of this hobby of guitar playing and gear geeking or gear whoring or whatever you want to call it, then you need one. You need some kind of guiding light. You need to think to yourself, what is my purpose here in doing this? Is the thing that I'm doing right now, buying this new guitar or buying this new piece of gear or whatever, is that in service to my ethos or is it antithetical to it? If I'm spending 5 to 10 grand on a brand new Gibson or Fender or something like that, is that really in service of an ethos that I'm proud of? Because somebody was like, oh yeah, you buy those Chinese guitars, the resale value, man, the resale value. There's no resale value in a Fesley. And it's like, well, yeah, but you're only spending $200. What kind of resale value do you expect? It's like on a $250 guitar. It's like, and honestly, I'm a pretty good salesman. I think by the time I get this guitar and I set it up and I make it play like $1 million, I can stick it in somebody's hand and say, here, man, you can have it for $150, $170, whatever. You know what I mean? I think I'm a decent salesman. I could probably do that. You know what I'm saying? And if you can't do it, maybe that's something you should work on. That's your problem, But resale value, seriously, on a brand new Chinese guitar, that's the least of your worries. I mean, I would worry about resale value on the $5,000 Gibson you just bought, that was brand new at $5,000. It's, or the new $2,200 standard that you just bought. You'll never get your money back out of that either. If you bought a used one, yes, perhaps. If you buy a good used Gibson, and see, that's the problem. Somebody was like, yeah, man, don't buy Chinese, support American. I'll get my resale value back and all that. And it's like, yeah, sure, okay. Yeah, resale value. But you're buying a used guitar. So how is that exactly supporting the American worker then? If you're buying the used guitar that was made 20 years ago. Yeah, I guess it it bolsters their resale value and maybe makes their new ones slightly more appealing, but it's not that damn much more appealing, and they're directly more in competition with their used guitars from the years past than these Chinese guitars. As someone else pointed out, it's like, hey man, Gibson really isn't in competition with Fesley or any of these other Amazon, choose your Amazon brand. I'm just using Fesley because I've done a couple of their videos recently and I like their guitars. The stuff that they're coming out with now is like actually really impressive for what they are. But it could be any number of cheaper brands, whatever. Name your cheap brand. Firefly, Harley Benton, whatever. So Firefly or Harley Benton, it's like, Gibson's not competing with them. It's like, yeah, that's true. They're competing more with their used stuff, which when you buy a used Gibson at the right price, you have to look around sometimes to find a good price on the stuff. And, you might have to talk a seller down a little bit, to get the best deal on something, but it's doable. You can still find a lot of good deals. There's a lot of stuff coming out of closets right now too, man, because the economy's not great and people don't have a lot of cash to throw around. The problem is people's wages have not kept up with the rate of inflation over the past, especially 5 or 6 years since COVID. It's been atrocious. They printed more money, man, than I think they've ever printed in the history. It was the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the world. That's what COVID was. It wasn't a pandemic. It was the biggest wealth transfer in the history of the planet, in the human race. That's exactly what it was. And the pandemic was cover for that. And it was the excuse for that. And that's what really went on there. And if you don't believe that, then you're just stupid. You haven't figured out life yet. And I don't know what to tell you. But that's the whole reason that we are in the pickle we're in now. And people have found that their wages haven't kept up with the rates of inflation. When you go to the grocery store, you look at the steak section, you can't afford a steak anymore. I'm in the same boat. I can't afford steak. I look at the steaks, I'm like, $50 for a couple of steaks? No, thank you. I'll just have the pork. I've developed a taste for eggs because I have chickens, outside. Which is the whole reason we got chickens. Like, if this ever happens again, the shit hits the fan, and you can't find food, God forbid, at least we'll have the chickens. You have to balance things, and if you're going overboard with the spending, I made a video not too long ago. It's like, hey, the time for investing in guitars is over, and that still stands true. I'm 100% there still. The time for investing in guitars is done. And well, Brad, why are you showing us all these new Fesleys and Chinese guitars? Well, dude, that's not investing. Yes, you're investing in a sense because you're buying a tool of your trade. So, yeah, in that sense, that is an investment. But it's not like I'm telling you should go buy a vintage 60s Fender Strat. and spend tens of thousands of dollars doing that right now when the future is so uncertain. And, you know, the prices on such things is not keeping up as they should. But in fact, that stuff is all coming down. One thing I noticed recently, which I thought was pretty funny, Sweetwater sent me their newest catalog. And one thing I noticed in the new Sweetwater catalogs, which I'd never seen before, there are no prices on anything in the catalog. It's like they just like, hey, don't even show them the price anymore. Because we know they're going to compare it to last month's catalog. And it's, you know, I noticed this actually a few months back when I got their newest catalog. It was like, holy shit, there's no prices in this anymore. It's like, isn't that telling that they want you to go to the website, so they have they have you captive on the website at least. Maybe you'll impulse buy on the website. You're not going to impulse buy on the paper catalog, which I thought that was really, really interesting that they stopped putting prices in there. But that shows you the state of things right now. It's not good as far as the instrument market for new stuff, which is why I'm showing you that the cheapo stuff, man, and how good it's gotten. It's like, holy crap, this is killing everybody else. Like, you know, American companies can't keep up with this, because if this is the level of a $250 Chinese guitar these days, I mean, people have no money in their bank accounts. So what are they going to do? They're going to find alternatives, and they're going to look for something like this. They're not going to buy the down market American model. This whole gear acquisition sort of mentality is not one that I can get on board with. You know, I was never on board with it to begin with. Even though I have a lot of stuff, I do acquire a lot of gear, and I have a large collection of older amps and things like that. Not all of it is super high end by any means, and I've got a lot of stuff that's it's just vintage, but it's kitschy vintage, and it needs a lot of work, and I've got a lot of projects, and I'll get around to them eventually. But that's my ethos. That's my passion. I want to take something that's cheap. I want to put a little bit of work into it. I want to make it better. All of the YouTubers that I really appreciate and really follow have a very similar ethos, whether that's in the guitar arena or whether that's in old rescuing old vehicles or restoring old watches or whatever it is. That's the kind of content that I seem to be drawn to, and that's the kind of content that I want to make. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What sort of content do you like to watch? Which of my content is your favorite content? Because I've done all kinds of stuff on this channel. You guys who've been around for a while know this. You know, I've done the review thing. I've done the Shitpost Friday thing. I've done the amp repair thing. I've done the guitar playing thing. I've done the documentary thing where I'm looking at the history of some brand or the history of some guitar, some forgotten history of some guy who invented something. You know, I've done a lot of different things on here and tried a lot of different formats, and I've had success in a lot of different formats. I had success one time. My biggest video is a reaction video to some guy who just completely botched a restoration on a guitar, and it's like, holy shit. And it turned out to be really funny, and YouTube wanted me to do more of that, and it's like, man, I don't want to be a reaction channel. So I could have done that. I could have dug in on that and probably had 1 million subs by now. Just if I just rinse and repeat, I could have done that same thing. But it's fucking boring. I don't want to do the same thing again and again, you know? That's not my ethos. I don't want to do the same things again and again. I want to show different things. You know, that's why, oh man, I'm so disappointed you stopped with the amp repair. Well, I haven't stopped with the amp repairs, you know? Amp repairs are still part of the content here on the channel. It's just, when I do one, you know, the algorithm tells me, hey, you shouldn't do this again. It tells me that by only giving me less than 10,000 views on an amp video that a couple years back would have been a 30,000 view video easily, you know? So it's like, man, I could either do this and spend the same amount of time editing, or I could do a talking head video like this one where I'm just chatting. And this video will probably have far and away more than my last amp video repair, and it'll take less editing. I mean, will the content be as evergreen? No. Will it add anything to the knowledge base of humanity? No. So it's fairly useless. in that sense, but in the sense of being a YouTuber and trying to make some sort of living of doing this, it makes perfect sense. It makes more sense to do this type of video than it does to put in a bunch of work doing the other stuff. But that doesn't mean I'm going to start doing this type of video either, because that's boring. Like I said, I don't want to be boring. But today I wanted to sort out some of these thoughts that I've been having, you know, because every now and then the comments will pile up, and in the back of my mind there'll be a little voice saying, well, what is it you want from this, Brad? What do you get out of this hobby now? And is it a hobby? Is it a profession? What is it for you? And sometimes I feel bad. It's like, well, man, I hope I didn't inspire somebody to buy something that they didn't need or something like that, and put their family in a difficult position. But I doubt that's happening with a $200 guitar. It's the people who are getting you to buy the $2,000 guitar. That's more likely the ones where you're going to get in a situation where it could be scary for somebody. You know, it's like, hey, I just spent $2,000 and emptied my bank account, but now I don't know where my car insurance is coming from. You know, so things have a tendency to snowball and get worse and worse and worse. So I don't want that to happen to any of you in my audience. You know, I respect you way too much to put people in that kind of position. I don't want to see you guys do that to yourselves. It's not worth it for a hobby, you know, for something that's meant to bring you joy. It's not, you shouldn't put yourself in difficult positions. And economically right now, I think there's far too many people that are doing that have already done that. The credit card debt has ballooned in our country. People are actually to the point where they're putting essentials like Instacart orders and shit on credit cards and going into debt over food and stuff like that. So it's like, oh man, we're in a real pickle when stuff like that starts to happen. So I don't want that to be the case for any of you who are watching or listening to this. Hopefully it's not. My ethos here has always been buy cheap, buy frugal, put some love into something, learn to repair the things you already own, make them better. Then if you want to sell that thing and take that revenue and put that into something else, I think that's really the more feasible way to go about exploring this hobby, exploring gear acquisition syndrome, because that's something we all get. We all get gas, but I think the healthy way to explore it is, you know, maybe one out the door and one in the door. And then you can keep things churning over in like I said, a healthy, natural way. And we can all trade and do this in a healthy way. And if there's growth involved economically with the prices on some of the stuff or the values of some of the things that we trade in, then great. But if the prices crash, then it's not the end of the world either, because all the things that we have, we got great deals on to begin with, right? So anyway, that's my ethos. I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think down below? And for now, we'll see y'all later.